psychotherapist here at my office in Lausanne. It's the 16th, I think, of June, Monday the 16th of June, and it's 5:15, which is very unusual because usually I go live at 8 o'clock, but tonight it's not realistic, it's not possible. And so I'm just going to accept the fact that I can't go live at 8:30 as planned. So I'm live now, and if you come in later and you see this on YouTube, then you'll see me then. So as usual, I'll talk a bit about my day, how things are. And as I mentioned over the weekend, I'm getting to the point where I have too many things to do, too many responsibilities, and I'm having to readjust what I plan to do to fit into what I feel I'm capable to do. And so that's why I'm here this afternoon, this evening, between 7 and 9 at my Association of Psychologists, the AVP, the Association Vaudoise des Psychologues, the Vaudoise Association of Psychologists, in which I will be speaking, and I'm telling them what it's like to be the boss of a small structure, a small enterprise of psychologists, and to sort of share a little bit the woes that one can have to try and deal with all the rules and regulations and limitations and yet expectations that people have with that. So this sort of all goes into the general mix of things are too hot for me, and I need to be able to get out of that, and to get out of a structure that is painful, that is dysfunctional, that's not working the way it should, is what I want to talk about this afternoon. And the concept is out of the frying pan into the fire. Now, in general, in the usual way people understand that phrase is to go from bad to worse. And I understand that, and that's the way that most people understand that phrase. But because I'm different and because I do things backwards and upside down, I see that differently. Because I use the same image, but not at all in the same sense. So a frying pan. A frying pan is a circular object with a rim of a certain height, stop the liquids flowing out. But it's not very high. It's not a casserole, it's not something like that. It's a frying pan. And the rim, the lip, is only about this big on the frying pan. Now, if you imagine we make that a lot bigger, much, much bigger, big enough for someone to actually be inside that frying pan running around it, then the rim would come maybe up to the knee, if. Just to give you an idea of the impression that I want to give. So you've got somebody that's their space. The frying pan is their space. Is their space either in relationship or at work or with their family or with an association or their religion or who knows what, any other thing, that sports club, whatever it is, that we have so many spaces in our lives. And hopefully they all work one way or another, but they don't have to work. And very often I get people that are suffering. I get them suffering. Why are they suffering? Because the spaces in which they function, one or several of the spaces in which they function, are not working for them. And when you're in a space that's not working for you, when you're in a situation that is painful, that is difficult, and that for some reason you don't feel you can get out of, and that's the whole vision of out of the frying pan. Imagine the frying pan, it is protected, it's limited. And outside is the fire. Outside, you don't know what it is. And it's painful, and you don't want to risk it, and you certainly don't want to jump into a fire because that sounds awful. However, this limited space in which you are living, and as I said, professional, family, couple, association, sports club, whatever. It doesn't matter whatever it is, that we all live in these limited spaces. We all do. Now, if we start to find out that one or several of these spaces starts not to function for us, it's as if there's a heat coming from underneath the pan. And when things go bad, there's more heat. Now, the heat, like everything else in life, because it's only an image of life, is it's not consistent. It's not always in one place. It's not always the same type. So if you're in this pan, this limited space, and it starts to get too hot and too uncomfortable in one part, you can try and move away from that. If you are having problems with your work and you're having problems with your boss, and then maybe try and find a way not to see the boss as much, or if your boss comes in part-time, try and organize a part-time, it's not the same time. There's all sorts of little things that you do when we start to see couples that somehow tend to not be together that much because there's other things they're supposed to do, etc., etc., etc. So we do find ways to move away from the discomfort that we're feeling in these limited spaces. However, in many, many situations, this discomfort, these problems are not going away. And worse than that, they're getting more and more important, more and more problematical. You get a guy that's aggressive with his girlfriend or his wife, and the chances are that over time, they'll get more aggressive. Over time, they'll get more violent. From time to time, something bad will happen, and they always just once, and then it happens again, and then it becomes normal, and then it gets worse. Or you get a boss that is abusive, and I see many, many occasions of this in America. America is one of the, for me, is one of the worst places to work, because they tend to have this sort of attitude of slavery towards the employees. The employees are sort of sometimes quite well paid, but they're not more than slaves, because they just have to do as they're told, like all the time. And if someone says, hey, you need to work late tonight because we need to finish this project, or oh well, we're cancelling Christmas. I've heard that. No, it's a TV series, but I think it's something that happens. They just suddenly decide to cancel Christmas, or your holidays, you can't take your holidays because we have this important project. And we didn't know we're going to have this important project when we got you to let you book your holidays. But don't worry about that. You maybe you go on holiday another time. It doesn't matter if you book the tickets and everybody's taking time off to go. No, you've got to work. And these sort of abusive situations will continue and will get worse. Now, in Europe and other English-speaking countries, I feel is not as bad. But we do get professional situations that don't work for us. We get abusive bosses or abusive owners that constantly ask us to do a bit more, or someone's off sick, can you fill in for this person? And then they're not coming back. But it doesn't matter, you're already doing their job as well as your own. And it's like, but I'm doing two jobs. Well, you can manage, because I know you're very functional, you're very efficient, and you're a good worker, and we'll think about you when we talk about bonuses and we talk about wage rises and things like that. We'll think of you. My father used to do that. My father, he had a concept called promised land. He said, because he had shops and he had lots of employees from time to time, and he would put them in promised land. That was his phrase. So it was sort of like, yeah, we'll see about that, and we'll see about this. In promised land, there was no guarantee for anything. And people would do things because they just imagined that he would fulfill the promises, and never did. And in that, my father was not the best employer in the world. He was nice to work for. A lot of people like that, and we divided them out for meals and things like that. They made them work all night, just normal in the way that he functioned. But he was abusive, and there were a lot of people that spent years working close to him or working for him, and then after a while, they just said, "This is too abusive for me." And they would leave. and leaving would be incredibly difficult because the intimate relationship that he created with them was very, very personal. It was very, very important. And it's strange that when I talk about things, I remember things like this. That's the way my mind sort of works. It picks things up. Is that my first job was for Dr. Gerard Salem. Dr. Gerard Salem was an incredibly attractive person. He was very seducing. He had this incredible warmth about him. And I was seduced by him, my partner was seduced by him, and we came to work for him. But when I was working for him, the situation was abusive. I mean, to begin with, I did 1 year as a trainee, which I didn't get paid for, an intern. And then after that, after I graduated, I carried on working for him, and it just wasn't enough money to pay me any. He was charging 200 francs an hour to the insurances for his time, which I was seeing his patients. It's too late now, he's dead, so you can't get the money back. And I was unwell, I was unhappy, and I didn't know what to do about it. And eventually, which is not quite the same thing as leaving, I confronted him. I jumped into the fire. I had a row with him. And I was a trainee, and he was this great psychiatrist and big and powerful and very sure of himself. And I dared to jump into the fire twice to argue with him. And actually, after the second time, he found me somewhere else to work. He found me another psychiatrist that would take me on. He didn't want to sack me because I wasn't wrong. He didn't want to keep me because I was uncomfortable for him. But again, he got to a point where it was so painful, so uncomfortable, that I had to do something. And the something was to confront him. And that's just one way of risking what you've got. Because if you've got a boss, or even sometimes a partner, or even, dare I say, a friend that you are having problems with, and you're not someone that likes to confront, you're not someone that likes to argue, you're someone that likes to, a people pleaser, that likes to be nice, likes to be friendly, likes to be appreciated, at some point, you either have to confront that person or you have to leave that type of relationship. And if you don't, you're going to make yourself unwell. You're going to have more and more problems. I have so many patients, and especially they either go, the direction is either anguish or depression or anger. Those are the three ways that people express their discomfort. And anger is actually often the healthiest. Like I confronted him. That was, at least I got it out, at least we discussed it, at least we came to some sort of conclusion. But I have the worst is anguish. And I've seen some people that really tear themselves to pieces because of anguish. They can't function in the workplace. It was a workplace, but I have also people, obviously, with relationships, intimate relationships, and they're so anguished about the idea of either confronting or leaving because they have this feeling of responsibility. And this is what brings on burnout. Burnout is people that are in a job, in a space that's closed, that's safe, that's protected, but becomes more and more untenable, becomes more and more difficult to stay within it. And then they're stuck because they're scared to go out, again, out of the frying pan, into the fire. They're scared to go out, and yet they know they can't stay in it. And that's the awfulness that many people come to therapy for, because they cannot stay and they cannot leave. And that's something that many of us find ourselves in, that quandary, in that dilemma. Can't stay, I can't leave. Can't live with, can't live without. And this is what destroys people. It destroys you because you then become in a sort of an inner civil war. You're part of you that says, I can't leave, I can't do this, and another part of you that says I can't stay because it's destroying me. And then what actually happens is you start destroying yourself. You start to enact within yourself these conflicts, and this is why we get depressed. Depression for me is often, not always, but often, a form of inner civil war. The energy that we need to have to function with, we're actually attacking ourselves with, because whichever choice we make is the wrong choice. And we cannot see another choice because we are so scared to jump into the fire. We're so scared to take these risks. We're so scared to say, I need to change this. Now, it could be something totally different. It could be ego. Now, over the last weeks, I have been functioning at some incredible rate. I've been doing sometimes 12-hour days. I'd come to work, I'd start at 9, I'd work through to 6, I'd run over to the gym, I'd do some gym, I'd come back, I'd prepare a live broadcast, I'd do the live broadcast, I'd finish at 9, and I'd feel like I'm a superhero. And then it became too much. And this weekend, if you've seen my videos for the weekend, you'll see that I've started to say I'm heading towards a burnout. Just like everybody else that is in a burnout, the idea to stop what you're doing seems worse than stopping it. And if stopping it touches your ego, that can be the most difficult thing to go beyond. Because you say that if I don't do everything I said I'm going to do, people are going to look at me and I'm going to look at myself and it's going to be not good. And that is dangerous. So even to throw yourself in the fire of your own ego and say, no, I cannot do everything. I cannot be the Superman, the Superwoman that I thought I was, that I wish to be. It doesn't matter, because you need to fundamentally protect yourself. And yes, it's important to have a good ego. It's important to push yourself. It's important to go beyond your comfort zone. But beyond your comfort zone, you get to the zone of suffering. And if you go beyond the zone of suffering, then you get into the zone of pain and destruction. And if you stay in this theoretical frying pan, you stay in these situations in which you know fundamentally that's not good for you, you know fundamentally that it's doing you more and more harm, then to start to think about what would happen if I got out of this? What would happen if I demissioned? What would happen if I gave my notice in? What would happen if I asked for a separation? What would happen if I packed my bags and I left? What would happen if I choose to stop responding to phone calls and SMSs from this person that I'm starting to find heavy and demanding and uncomfortable? What would happen? And if you ask yourself what would happen, what would it be like if I jumped into this fire? What would that be like? Would I survive? And the answer is yes. One of the best images that I can give you is fire walking. Now, fire walking, it's a bit of a misnomer because they don't actually walk on fire. They walk on hot coals. Trying to remember the English for that. They walk on hot coals. But in the hot coals, and they can burn your foot, and it's not comfortable. But the idea that you walk from, I don't know, something like 10 meters, 10 yards, on these hot coals, you have to, it's exactly that. You go from A to Z. You go from fear to mastery. And the idea to jump out of the frying pan into the fire is that you gain mastery of your life. You become the master of your own life. You become capable to deal with these situations. And you say, this is not so bad. I can cope. I can survive. I don't have to stay in pain and suffering. That's the whole image, is that the frying pan is a closed space. You can stay in that closed space forever. You're never going to go anywhere except round and round and maybe criss and cross. But if you jump into the fire, you can run through the fire. And the fire doesn't go on forever. The fire is only around where you are at the moment. That's it. And once you go a certain distance away from that space where you are, things calm down. And I have so many patients that are on leave, that have split from their relationships, or that have even split from their families because they were finding it untenable. And after a moment, they just go, they just relax. They can actually feel a moment of peace, a moment when they can say, okay, I can rest, I can relax. I don't have to continue to be in this situation that's doing me so much harm. And I totally support you in having this reflection. If you are in a situation which is bad and it's getting worse, now there are situations that you cannot get out. If you're in prison, you're in prison. And maybe you're in a town where there's one employment and you don't really want to leave that employment because you'll have to leave town and leave your family, leave your friends. There are ways, and I deal with this every day, with people finding solutions in their day-to-day lives in difficult situations, difficult work and family relationships. Yes, I help people to sort their lives out that. But there are times when it's just too much. There are times when you just need to get out. You just need to run. You need to breathe. You need to give yourself the space to say, I'm leaving this behind me. And sometimes it's very painful. And I'm not suggesting that you abandon your family and your kids and you just walk out. I'm not suggesting that because that has secondary problems, secondary fallouts that would be, especially if you've got kids, to go and abandon your kids is likely to be the worst thing for them. So that's something that I'm not suggesting, but there are many, many fashions, many ways that you can find space for yourself. And I've had couples that I've helped split up. Yes, I do. I help couples split up sometimes. And now I'm a couple therapist, I'm a family therapist, but sometimes the most healthy thing for a couple, for a family, is to split up. It happens. It's a fact. I've helped them split up, but in such a way to do the least damage possible, to try and find out what it is within that limited space that's doing so much harm, and how much we can keep the relationships, the family, other things together, and yet still release whatever it is that's the most damaging element or elements. So there can be sort of in-between solutions. It's not all or nothing. And yes, the image frying pan fire, you're out of the one space and you run away. And yeah, that's how it functions. But in real life, life is much more complicated than that. It's multifactorial. There's many elements. And sometimes you can remove yourself from one element that's doing you harm without destroying everything. I remember I had a patient who was working for Nestle. Now, Nestle is a huge, huge enterprise. Here it's in Vevey, I think, the headquarters are. And they have 3 or 4 or 5, I don't remember how many tower blocks. And they're sort of like separate worlds. And she was working in one of the blocks, and the boss that was her boss changed. A new boss came in, a new boss didn't like her, a new boss that had friends in high places. So if he was unpleasant or abusive, he was well protected. He could do what he wanted, and maybe his attitude was based on a certain ego and a certain confidence that he could do whatever he wanted, certain arrogance. And she didn't want to leave Nestle, but she desperately needed to leave the department. And eventually, because she would from time to time go to other departments for part of her job, I don't remember what her job was, it was something with general communications or something. And then she started to talk to some of the other bosses, and eventually she found a boss that was willing to take her on within his department, and she got transferred. So she got out of the part, out of the frying pan, which was the department in which her new boss was creating fire and heat and unpleasantness. She got out of that because she had to, but she didn't leave Nestle. She actually, I think, got a better position at the end of it. But it wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun period. It lasted about a year before she actually managed to find a way to get out of it. She tried all the usual channels of the human resources and the bosses of bosses and things like that. But every time she tried to complain or tried to get things sorted out, she was blocked. She was blocked because this guy, he had friends in very high places, and then they would phone up the human resources and say, "Don't give this woman the time of day. It's not worth. It's not worth." So she was locked. She sorted out that, and she found a different pan that was more appropriate for her. So anyway, that's what I have to say. And as I've said, that this is now being recorded at 5:39 in the afternoon, 17:39 for the Europeans. And because I'm not available tonight because I am at my association, I will be talking about things that are important. And my ego, I've had to sort that out and not be able to do this. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know if I record something tomorrow, if I go live tomorrow. We'll just see what we see. My life is horribly, horribly complicated at the moment. So I'm doing my best. But keep with it. Find solutions and risk. Risk to move out of your comfort zone that's not very comfortable, and jump into the fire. Take a risk, and hopefully you come out of it better than when you got in. Okay, this is Gary Ghetto, and I'll speak to you another time. I don't know exactly when, but soon. Bye.